What's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a review for the movie The Batman. Probably one of the most anticipated movies that's coming out this year, and it's the first of 4 DC movies to be coming out this year. I told people, I said DC and Marvel about to clash. They're about to go head to head this year. It's going to be a phenomenal year for comic book films. People who are fans of comic book films, even if you aren't fans of those, you're going to really enjoy this year. And what a way to really kick things off with The Batman. Now, I will say that this was not my most anticipated movie of the year. It still isn't. My most anticipated movie of the year is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but that'll come a little bit later, May 6th. But we are here today to talk about The Batman, and I have to honestly say, this Batman right off the bat is probably in my rank top 5 favorite Batman movies of all time, and it's almost gearing closer to number 1 after just the first viewing. I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Like I said, as a matter of fact, when I took a poll, sorry about that, I had to take a call right quick. But anyway, back to what I was saying. The Batman was a very, like I said, a very good movie. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually took a poll on my last video, or my last movie review, and I asked people, did y'all want me to do spoiler reviews or non-spoiler reviews? I had people say that they wanted me to do them. Some people didn't want me to do them, but a lot of people said that they wanted me to do a spoiler. So this is like a disclaimer, like they wanted me to do spoiler reviews on my video. So this is the disclaimer now. There will be some spoilers in this review. So if you plan on seeing this movie and you haven't seen it, please do not watch my review until after you have seen the movie, because I don't want anybody saying I spoiled that. I'll even put it in the title and say that it'll have some spoilers in here. I'm not going to go spoiler heavy with it, but I'm going to mention some things in the movie that, you know, the trailer did not show. So basically what this movie about is, this is the year 2 Batman. And basically year 2 Batman is exactly what it is. You have Batman in his second year as being Batman. He's still kind of a rookie with the whole Batman thing. He's still trying to figure everything out. He's still a little bit rusty, a little rough around the edges, but he's still trying to figure everything out while still getting the job done. So the movie stars Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne and Batman. It stars Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle and Catwoman. You have Jeffrey Wright playing Lieutenant Gordon, not Commissioner Gordon. He is still a lieutenant. He has not gotten to the rank of commissioner just yet. He is still low in the ranks himself. If you all watch the Gotham show, he kind of works himself up to the point where he is now. He doesn't earn the rank of commissioner until much later on. So he's still kind of new to this as well. And then you have also some other characters in it, and I'm gonna get to those in a second as I'm going through my review. So like I said, this is about Batman in his year 2. As a matter of fact, he has a little journal. He calls it the Gotham Project Year 2. And I thought that was an interesting way of putting it. And he puts down his little notes and jot down notes and everything like that. And one thing I like about this take of Batman, who the director is Matt Reeves, is this is showing us a Batman who's not established just yet. All the other Batman films that we have seen up until this point, Batman has been established. He's been Batman for so long. Everybody in Gotham knows who he is. He's not taken as a joke. Whenever he makes his appearance, whenever you see that bat signal in the sky, you know what's about to happen. And, you know, a lot of people aren't, you know, I guess you can say, like I said, they're not taking him as a joke, or they feel, it's not that they feel less threatened by him. In some aspects in this movie, they kind of do, but in a lot of aspects, they don't at the same time. He's not the playboy Bruce Wayne that he is in the other movies, where he has a lot of women around him, or he's going through a lot of women and everything like that. He hasn't gotten to that point yet. He's still a broken, fractured Bruce Wayne that's trying to construct a well-built Batman. That's almost pretty much what the movie is going for. Like, they have a broken Bruce Wayne who's trying to create and build up an awesome Batman character. But first I want to do is go through how I felt about the performances of each actor who played their parts. Robert Pattinson did a phenomenal job as Batman. A lot of people were kind of trying to write him off because they keep having him tied down to his Twilight role. I tell people that you can't continue to tie him down to that one role because he is bigger than that role. If you want to see him do some other very good work, watch him in the movie Tenet with John David Washington. he did a very good job in that movie as well. And when I saw him in that movie, I said, he has that Bruce Wayne feel already. And I think by that time he was already cast as Bruce Wayne Batman while he was doing that movie. And I said, I can see it now. I can kind of see the Bruce Wayne in him, but I'm still going to see what he does with his performance. He did a really good job of conveying that, you know, Bruce Wayne is still a broken person. Batman is still struggling to try to be the best Batman he can be, still try to protect Gotham while still being rough around the edges at the same time. You had Zoe Kravitz, who played Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, and she's still kind of new as Catwoman herself because by her look and by the attire that she has on. And the thing about these characters is so many other actors have played these characters over the years. So some people have their pick on who the best Batman is or who the best Catwoman is or these other characters that have been portrayed over the years. Her character, basically, she works at a club and she's just basically trying to, you know, protect this girl. I think the girl's name is Annika or Annika or something like that. I think it's some kind of German or Russian name. Excuse me. And she's trying to protect her from these mob type of people. And that's another thing. This movie almost felt like a detective / mob movie to the point where it didn't even feel like a superhero movie. At first I was like, is this a superhero film or is this a mafia detective film? And for some reason, I enjoyed that. I actually thought that actually did work. But yeah, her character, she actually played a pretty decent Catwoman. I think I'll argue and say that her Catwoman was better than Anne Hathaway's. And I think a lot of people will agree with me because a lot of people didn't like Anne Hathaway's portrayal, but anything's better than Halle Berry's performance as Catwoman. Let's just be real here. But she did a pretty good job as Catwoman. But there was one thing that I didn't like about a plot twist involving her character, but I'll get into that part when I talk about the things that I didn't like about the movie. And those, of course, when I start talking about the stuff that I like and the stuff that I didn't like, that's when some of the spoilers are going to kick in for me when it comes to this film. Then you had Alfred. He didn't really do much in this movie. He really didn't have a lot of lines. He didn't have a lot of dialogue. He really didn't do much, but I have to remember this is year 2 Batman. So Alfred is not as hands-on with this whole thing like he is in the previous films because he's still kind of getting new and warmed up to Bruce Wayne being Batman. And I didn't know, you know, in this movie, Alfred had a cane. Like, I'm like, what happened to Alfred that he has a cane? Because in the other Batman movies, even when in the older Batman movies back in the 90s, Alfred was older and he wasn't walking around like it was business as usual. He never used the cane. We never saw Alfred use a cane. But something must have happened. It could have been an injury or something. But Alfred in this movie, he had a cane. So it is what it is. Commissioner Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright. Let me tell y'all something. Jeffrey Wright, they need to give that man his flowers right now. That man has been acting since I was a kid. And I feel like he's an underrated legend in this business. He is such a phenomenal actor in pretty much every role that he does, no matter how big or small. I can't think of any movie that I've watched with Jeffrey Wright in any role that he's portrayed that I didn't like. He does a very good job as Commissioner Gordon. There was some controversy around, Lieutenant Gordon. There was some controversy behind it because, you know, Commissioner Gordon has always been played by and, you know, portrayed in the comics and the shows as a white male. But this time you have Jeffrey Wright, who of course is a black man, playing Lieutenant Gordon because he's not commissioner yet. And so people was kind of about it, but I think by now they've gotten over it. And I like that even though he's playing Lieutenant Governor in this movie, they still have him look aesthetically on the physical appearance of how he looks traditionally, which is the mustache, the glasses, the cut, and everything like that. You know, just how Commissioner Gordon looked in the previous films as well as in the animated series, which is probably one of my favorite cartoons of all time. Growing up, I love watching that animated series every single Saturday morning. It's from 1992 to 97. That's a huge part of my childhood right there. I have to give a props to whoever the makeup department is, because when it comes to Colin Ferrell playing Oswald Cobblepot, even though they said in the movie just call me Oz, we all know his name is Oswald Cobblepot, aka Penguin. He did a phenomenal job playing Penguin, but whoever did his makeup, whoever created the look, definitely has to get some kind of award for makeup, because you didn't even recognize that was Collin Ferrell. A lot of people did not know Collin Ferrell was even in this movie. But yes, that is Collin Ferrell playing Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. Not only did he not, you can tell that was him, but he didn't even sound like him. And that's a hard thing to do, because considering that Colin Farrell has a British accent, much like Robert Pattinson. But see, Robert Pattinson he's a little easier for him to do the American accent. He's done it before. But you got to think, Colin Farrell had to do not only an American accent, but he had to do like a thick Italian, like a thick Italian American / Chicago or New York type of accent, on top of him already having a British accent that he had to mask and hide, because as we all know, Oswald Cobblepot is not a British character. And he played that part very, very well, especially in one particular scene that I'm going to talk about and the stuff that I did like. Now, let me get to the part of the character that was really, really good, and that was the character of the Riddler. Now, we all know that the Riddler historically has always been this quirky, nerdy, dweeby, geeky type of high-spirited, laughing, comedic character who always leaves riddles for Batman to figure out where he is and tries to catch him or tries to save somebody. There might be some casualties here and there, but it's nothing major. Then you look at how Jim Carrey portrayed him in Batman Forever back in '95, and it's the same thing. The animated series, the same thing. But they took a whole 360-degree turn with this character and turned him from what we traditionally know as the Riddler and turned him into this menacing, maniacal, dark, villainy, scary individual. It's almost like every time the Riddler was on screen, you did not know if you were watching a Batman film or a horror film, because the music that they put behind the Riddler when he came on screen, to the things that he did, I'm talking about he's killing people, knocking people out and killing people in the head, like attaching bombs to their neck. I was like, is this a Batman film or a Saw movie? Because that's kind of the thing he was going for. The way his voice was sounding when he would talk, the mask was scary. Like the mask was freaky. It was even some parts in there, whenever he would come up, I'm not even gonna lie, some parts actually made me jump a little bit whenever he popped up on screen, especially. And this is the first little spoiler. It was a part in the beginning of the movie where he killed his first victim. The person was walking around in the house in the dark. Well, it was kind of dark. And then when he walked past, the Riddler is standing behind him, but the guy doesn't even realize that the Riddler is there. So he's like standing there and he didn't even realize that he was there. But the way that it's shot, because they use a lot of dark elements when they're shooting, and that goes to the cinematography, which was phenomenal, especially for a film like this. It played and it worked well for the kind of character the Riddler was in this movie and how they had him be portrayed, coming out of the shadows, calling, the menacing voice, and basically being intimidating and scary. Even the riddles that he left was amazing. Like, they weren't easy to figure out if you was like in that situation and you couldn't use like your thinking cap completely in that moment. You wouldn't understand exactly what it is that he was trying to convey. But Batman was figuring that stuff out almost immediately. But even there was some points where Batman thought he had it figured out and he really didn't. And that's just the way that he was played. Even the part where they finally unmasked the Riddler, which was more than halfway through the movie, when he was in a cell. I can't listen to that song Ave Maria the same way again, because it was a part where he was singing that song and in the cell, and it sounded so scary. Like, it's like something, and the thing is, that's supposed to be like a holy song, but the way that he sang it, it sounded something like real demonic. I'm gonna be honest, because of the way he sang it and his facial expression. So shout out to the actor that played the Riddler. He did a really good job of playing that role, and it's got onto the point where I can't even look at duct tape the same. Every time he kills somebody, he whipping out that duct tape and taping them up and all types of stuff, writing messages and everything like that. The overall message of the movie was basically taking out corruption. That was his goal, was to take out corruption. He was tired of the lies from the politicians saying they're going to do this and do that, and they don't do this and they don't do that. That's basically what it is. And the thing is, that can kind of play in real life out. A lot of people are fed up with the lies politicians, or as I like to call them, politicians, like to tell the people in order to get votes. And that's basically what it is. He just got fed up with the lies, but he just went about it in a very, very extreme way. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to talk about what I liked about the film, and then I'm going to go into what I didn't like. What I liked about the film, again, was the cinematography. The way that they used the elements of darkness was amazing, because we all know that Batman is a character that really comes out at night. I like that they use the element of him walking out into the dark and everything like that. And I like that they played on that because of him being year 2. He doesn't have to just kind of do all those sneak attacks all the time and having him come out into the dark. And one element of that, and this is not really a spoiler, but they showed it in the trailer, was when in that hallway scene and it's dark and you see all the gun firing and the bullets flying everywhere and he's taking out all the enemies. That scene, watching that on the big screen, was nice. I like how they shot that. And it works well because it's Batman, and this is one of the first times we've seen Batman in the daytime, because usually, like I said, he's always out at night. But this time we actually saw him in some parts during the day. Well, more like the early morning, when the sun is rising, but still it's not completely dark. And that's something we really never ever see when it comes to the Batman. Another part I liked is the chase scene between him and the Riddler, which is the first time we see him whipping the Batmobile. And unfortunately, it's the only time you really see him driving that Batmobile in the movie, is in that scene. But I liked how they used the mix of the score to go with the intensity of the scene. And I like that, it's year 2 Batman. He's not driving the Batmobile that we're used to seeing. He's using like a muscle American car that he just kind of souped up to make it seem like, like more intense than what it is. And I like that the chase scene happened not only at night, but it happened while it was raining. And that driving sequence was nice. And you can tell that they use a lot of practical effects, like tossing the cars over, flipping stuff over, exploding. It wasn't a lot of CGI there. I don't even know how much CGI they used in this movie, because a lot of it looked really practical, which I love for a Batman film. Because some movies, like a Batman movie, doesn't really need a lot of CGI like that, because it's not, in my opinion, a CGI heavy type of film. Now, one scene that made me kind of go like, oh, I know that had to hurt, was when he was jumping off of the building, and he was like using the little flying thing, and he came in too high trying to go too low, and he went smack into a low bridge and flipped. Like, everybody in the theater was like, oh shit. And I like that when it comes to stuff like that, Batman showed that he could be injured, because in the later movie, like in the early movies, he's always so polished, almost like he can't be injured or he can't take a hit. But in this one, he shows that he could be injured. He wasn't really doing a lot of superhero landings, as they like to call it. When he fell and had some injuries, you actually felt that he did have some injuries. And that was an example of one right there. That's, it was crazy. Another thing that I liked about the movie was the dynamic between Batman and Lieutenant Gordon. Like in the beginning of the movie, when he's walking into the crime scene, all the cops for the GCPD are looking at him like, what is he doing here? And Lieutenant Gordon is like, he's with me. And they like, are you sure? Because we don't know if we can trust him. Because remember, he's still a new Batman. He's not walking in and everyone's like, oh, hey, Batman, how you doing? Oh, the crime scene's over here. They're like, what is he doing here? Like, he's not a cop. He shouldn't be here. He's, as far as I know, is a person that's just playing dress up. Or how do we know he's not connected to the crime? So I like that they put that in there, and it gives you that element of, oh, we got to take our minds off of the old films where everyone knows who Batman is and is comfortable around him, to, oh, everyone's not comfortable around him and they can't trust him. And the only person he has in his corner is Lieutenant Governor. He's like the only friend in the GCPD that he has. So I like that they put that in there to show where we are with this Batman, in this film, because this Batman is not connected to the Christopher Nolan films. It's definitely not connected to the Tim Burton films. This is its own, I guess its own, I could say its own new franchise, because it's also not connected to the Snyder Cut or the Snyderverse or whatever. So this is this own little thing. I'm curious to see if where this movie is going to go forward. Another thing that I liked about this movie is the music. I like that they used the score from the trailers in this movie as well, but I also feel like it's a little bit of a con as well, and I'll get to that when I get to the stuff that I didn't like. But I did like that they incorporated some of the music in the movie that they had in the trailers, because I know that when the music was epic in those trailers, but a lot of the times they won't use it. But this time they did. Now, with that being said, I hope I got everything out of the way that I did like. Now I'm gonna go into the things that I didn't like. One thing I didn't like is the time. Yes, this movie is pretty long. This movie is almost 3 hours long. Now, for some people, that is a good thing, but for a lot, that might not be a good thing. For me, it's a good and a bad thing. Good because then that means you can pack a lot of stuff in there. But the bad thing is you have to put a lot of filler in there to make up for the time. And it was some parts in there that I felt just dragged. Like, I'm like, you could have cut down on time when it came to that. You could have cut out some dialogue or put some, when it comes out on Blu-ray, do some extra like deleted scenes, and you could have filled it in with that. Then that's the only con when it comes to making movies that are long, is that it can drag. And, they got to add in stuff in there that probably doesn't need to be there. Now, the other thing that I didn't like, and that goes back to my pro, is some of the music. While I did like the music that they did incorporate into the movie, I feel like in some aspect, they overused some of the music, meaning they played it over and over and over again, even in some parts where I felt like they didn't necessarily have to use it. Now, when it came to the chase scene between Batman and Penguin, I thought the music right there was phenomenal. And I also like that they kind of used the music there from the trailer in that scene, but they kind of remixed it a little bit. But I heard it right there. I saw the trailer enough times. Oh, I have to go back to one pro when it comes to the music. If y'all have seen Batman Returns, I know I'm not the only one that heard this, but the music that they use when it comes to Catwoman's transformation and some of the little chords that they're playing, I don't know what instrument that is. They use that in this movie, not with her character, but in a scene with Batman. I'm hearing it over and over. I said, that sounds like that came from Batman Returns, or that's a nod to that. So I thought that was dope that they kept that little chord in there. Those of you who watch Batman Returns and watch this movie, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. But the con that I had with the music is I felt like they used it constantly over and over again to the point where it wasn't even really that necessary. Now, the last thing that I didn't like about this movie, and it goes back to the Selena Kyle character, is not necessarily her character per se, but it does have something to do with her character. There is a plot twist with her character, and that is finding out who her father is. Now, we never knew who Selena Kyle's parents were, so they just kind of shoehorn something in there about her parents. And in this movie, we find out that her father is Carmine Falcone, and Carmine Falcone is one of the biggest mob bosses in the Batman universe. He's probably one of the top bosses, and he gets answered to a lot. He has a lot of people working underneath him, a lot of corrupt people that's working with him. But I thought that was kind of like okay, that kind of came out of left field, saying that her father was Carmine Falcone, especially since there's never been any type of literature, to my knowledge, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, where Carmine Falcone is Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman's father. So it's like they kind of, I guess, threw that in there because she wanted to kill Carmine Falcone so bad. And I'm thinking maybe she wanted to take him out because he was responsible for the death of her friend. But then we find out it's something deeper, and it's like, oh, that's her dad. And, and then she goes into a little backstory behind it. But to me, I felt like that really didn't make any sense to have them be her dad. But that was like some of the cons that I had. I can't really think of any more, but those are the three that came to mind when it came to that situation right there. And also another thing that I liked about the movie is, of course, is the scene where the Riddler floods the city. Like, that part was nice. When he floods, like, he sets off these explosives and floods the city, excuse me, I thought that was a pretty dope scene as well. But all in all, I really did enjoy The Batman. It was a really good movie. I don't know if I would see it again. I would probably have to see it in pieces because, like I said, the movie is long as hell. Like I said, it's almost 3 hours. But it was a really good movie. It was a good detective type of film. Like I said, you go into this, it's not gonna feel like a Batman film. It feels like Batman in name or in costume, but it feels like a detective / mafia / mob film. It actually wasn't that. I actually would say this. I feel like this movie was more story driven than action driven, and that can work for some people and it may not work for other people. For me, I'm kind of in between because I did like the action, I did like the story, but like I said, I feel like the story did drag because of the time. But the movie is definitely, in my opinion, more story-driven than action-driven. But that's my take on The Batman. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Is this a movie based off of my review that you would go see, or would you not go see it? Are you a fan of Batman? what is your favorite Batman film? Who is the favorite person to play Batman ever of the Batman films that you've ever seen? Who is your favorite Batman villain? I'm just asking a bunch of questions to see what y'all got to say down in the comments. He has a huge rogues gallery, which is a lot of villains. And I like that they brought the Riddler back because he's a character that doesn't really get talked about a lot. And because everyone focuses on the Joker so much, I'm just glad that you have a Joker in this movie. Although I think in the last part in this movie, when he was talking to the Riddler while he was in Arkham, I think that might have been the Joker he was talking to in the cell next to him. Now, speaking of end of the movie, if there was a post-credit scene to be had with this film, I have no clue what it was. I left when the credits started to roll. I said, this is not a Marvel film, but I know that DC likes to throw some stuff in there. But if they did, then someone can let me know. I don't care to be spoiled down below because something tells me I might get spoiled anyway. But y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you go and hit that bell if you are new to be notified every time I upload a new video or go live.